Welcome to the Carousel of Happiness podcast. I'm your host, Allie Wagner. On last week's episode, I shared a story of a group of veterans and their families who visited the carousel from the Travis Manion Foundation a couple of weeks ago. You heard about how the organization supports veterans and their families, how the group honored their fallen at the carousel, and how you personally can embody the organization's motto, if not me, then who? On today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit more about individual impact and why it matters. How one person's actions can positively influence the lives of others. How one normal person, not a celebrity or a famous athlete, not someone with millions of social media followers, but someone just like you and me who transformed their community and left a legacy behind that endures to this day. On today's episode, I'll introduce you to Mary Quinlan Wingate, and you'll learn how a mother of three changed Nederland for the better and how her legacy lives on to this day. Let us begin with today's story. Mary Wingate was a lifelong summer resident of Nederland who passed away at the age of 87 in 2020. Mary was born in 1933 in Manhattan, Kansas, where her father was a professor of horticulture at Kansas State University. Mary herself graduated from Kansas State in 1955, and after raising three daughters in Minnesota, Mary moved to Fort Collins in 1996. But Mary's family ties to Nederland go all the way back to 1913, when her grandfather operated a hardware store in town to support tungsten miners. 3 years later, in 1916, Mary's grandfather built a cabin along Highway 119, just west of downtown. He had been given the land to settle a debt. He and his family used the cabin they built as a summer retreat, which Mary personally maintained until her death. Summer residents in mountain towns sometimes get a bad rap. From a cynical local's perspective, these temporary residents blast in when the last snow melts and fly off to warmer pastures when the snow starts to fly again. Some full-time residents of mountain towns can get frustrated with summer residents because they don't always make the most community-minded decisions. That's because their community, their home, is elsewhere. It's not here. But Mary was a different kind of summer resident. While she didn't live in the area year-round, Nederland felt like home. Mary worked tirelessly on several local projects that were near and dear to her heart. During her time in Nederland, she worked with town officials to create and finance 2 neighborhood parks so that they would remain wild, just as she remembered them as a young girl. She also, upon her death, donated a parcel of land above Barker Reservoir to ensure permanent public access to national forest land. In the late 90s, when Nederland became aware of the need to care for the health of surrounding forests and mitigate wildfire risk for its residents, Mary, at the age of 65, was there, running an industrial wood chipper to help keep her neighbors safe. She loved this town, and it is a much better place because she called it home. One of Mary's favorite attractions in Nederland was the Carousel of Happiness. She saw it as a deep expression of optimism, even in troubled times. As Scott was bringing his idea to life, Mary was there, with encouragement, with friendship, and with financial support. She was a close friend to both Scott and his wife, Ellen. It's important to remember that it's really easy now to see the vision of the Carousel of Happiness, right? It's built, it's alive, it's spinning, it's on the CBS News. But we shouldn't forget that there was a point in time when Scott's vision was indeed just that, a vision. It takes a special kind of person to have vision, but an even more special person to support somebody else's vision they themselves might not be able to see just yet. Scott could see the carousel in his mind's eye, but in the 80s and 90s, he didn't have much to show for it. He had a broken down carousel frame stored underneath his deck and a bunch of wooden animals that were starting to accumulate and take over his house and the houses of his neighbors. Mary was one of those supporters who understood the vision, who got it, and who supported Scott in the ways she personally could, in the ways she personally knew how. Mary believed in Scott's vision, but also in the ideas the carousel represents. Positivity, inclusion, optimism, joy, love. And, like the town parks she helped protect, she supported the ideas that mattered most to her, in the ways that she could, and in the ways she knew how. We live in a time where the list of challenges and problems surrounding us can feel endless. We want to support big ideas like peace and justice, but we watch the news or we read the paper and it all feels so overwhelming. How can we personally, as average human beings, fix it all? And the truth is, we can't. We cannot single-handedly make systematic change all on our own. But we can have personal impact that ripples in that direction, that inspires others to do the same. And Mary's life is a testament to that fact. And her support for the carousel, while initially not personal per se, became very personal. When two of her daughters, Carolyn and Jenny Marie, tragically preceded her in death, Mary turned to her friend Scott and his special little carousel with her grief. She honored her daughter's memory by tucking mementos of their lives and spirits deep within the Somewhere Else wall. When she passed away in 2020, the family had a great idea of how to honor her memory. Every year, starting in 2021, they have supported a weekend at the Carousel of Happiness where rides would be 100% free in Mary's name. Whoever walked through the door, regardless of who they were or where they came from, they would be offered a free ticket to ride, courtesy of Mary Wingate. And that's exactly what happened last weekend at the Carousel. Last Saturday and Sunday, over 1,500 riders were treated to a spin or 2 or 12, courtesy of Mary Wingate. People who knew about it and came specifically to the carousel for it, and those who had no idea, surprised and delighted by the generosity of a woman they've never met. And since 2021, Mary Wingate has inspired joy and happiness in the lives of 7,857 human beings. And that, to me, is the story and legacy of Mary Wingate. Someone who leveraged what they had to make change in a place they loved. Someone who supported their friends and their quirky little projects only to be transformed themselves by that project when they personally needed it the most. We have been led to believe that we need to have big impact in this lifetime in order to make change. We need millions of followers or millions of dollars, supposedly, to chip away at the big issues. But as we've learned from Scott and now Mary, we don't need to be everything to everybody. We only need to be us. Exactly as we are, exactly where we live. And if we can not only just accept that fact, but own it, celebrate it, we can change our communities and leave behind a lasting legacy, just like Mary. This week, I invite you to think about one project or idea that matters to you. Something you could, in theory, act upon right now, just as you are, with the resources you have available to you. Maybe it's volunteering at an organization that matters to you. Maybe it's calling up that friend who's shared their crazy idea. What about Mary's story inspired you today? And how can you honor her legacy by continuing that ripple of change? In the meantime, take care. Be well. And as we like to say at the Carousel of Happiness, don't delay joy. And we'll see you next time around.
Beginnings and endings are only pretendings. I'll see you next time around. I'll see you next time.